Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Just when you thought it was safe to get back into YouTube. Just when you thought all of your favourite watch YouTubers had made their last video about the Seiko SKX, we had all flogged that horse for as long as possible and as hard as possible until it was undeniably, irrefutably, irretrievably dead. I'm here to prove you wrong with just one more Seiko SKX video because I bought just one more Seiko SKX. The SKX was like manna from heaven for all of us YouTubers for the longest time. Seiko had been making these things since 1996, so before even YouTube was a thing, there were already a large number of people who had these in their collections. And the chances are, if you got into watches over the last 5 years, you probably did so with a Seiko SKX being one of your first pickups. It became almost like a feedback loop at points. The more Seiko SKX videos there were on YouTube, the more we all felt we had to make videos about the Seiko SKX. I looked through my library of videos this morning and I found at least 15 videos with the word SKX in the title, and I'm sure there were another 10 or so that featured the SKX in roundups and loom wars and so on. For a time there, they were almost ubiquitous. Not everybody loved the SKX, they did have their detractors, but it still got a remarkable amount of respect, even from guys and girls who collected at the higher end of the market. There was usually a Seiko lurking in the corner of their boxes somewhere. Low 200s from a usable, legible, ISO rated dive watch from a big brand like Seiko was a bit of a no-brainer for a lot of people, me included. I genuinely have lost count now of how many Seiko SKXs I have bought and sold over the last few years. But that's not the question today. The question is, why did I buy this one? I reckon there are two reasons why I bought it. The first involves price. No surprises there really. If you're a regular on the channel, you know that I'm a little bit tight and price is always near the top of my personal agenda. The second reason involves a game of pass the parcel. Why don't I discuss that first? I bought my first SKX, admittedly rather late, in about August or September 2017, and I thought I was bucking the trend a little bit by buying the SKX I, the smaller 38.5mm watch. And I love that thing. I've still got it in my collection. I made a couple of videos modifying it as well, one of which did very well with over 250,000 views. I did a loom ceramic bezel insert in sapphire crystal. In a second video, I added a strap code oyster bracelet. While all of this was going on with the 013, I unboxed a friend's 009 and made a video about that. I then bought a 009 for myself and then sold it because I preferred the 013. I then bought a 007, the black dial version of the same watch, which I must have sold as well for an unknown reason. I then bought another badly modified version of the 007 with a piece of squint sapphire crystal, which I then remodded, added a ceramic bezel insert and sold that one on again for some unknown reason. Finally, I decided to do it properly. I picked up a 007 and gave it the ultimate SKX mods as I described in the video. I did the full NH36 swap, upgraded it to a hacking and hand winding movement, double dome sapphire crystal with a nice blue anti-reflective coating, again a loom ceramic bezel insert, and I put some Yoboki's Squally 1521 hands, and to finish it all off, a strap code Super Jubilee bracelet. But as with a lot of the watches that I get in and modify, I then sold it. For some reason, when I modified a watch, when I'm kind of finished with a mod project, I'm kind of done with it and it usually ends up sitting in a box, so I sold that one on. Late 2019, I bought yet another 009 in reasonable condition, but no box, no papers, and then the music stopped. After a couple of false starts over the preceding 2 years, Seiko finally discontinued the SKX in late 2019. It didn't stop me making another couple of videos even then though, including my top 5 SKX alternatives, and finally in April this year, I put the SKX head to head with 3 of those aforementioned alternatives. But when the music stopped and when I inspected the SKX shaped parcel that I had been left with, I found that I had one SKX 013, the modded one that is a permanent part of my collection, and one 009. The 009 had never been my favourite SKX. I always thought that that two-toned aluminium bezel insert made the watch look a little bit cheaper and a little bit cheesier than the black dial version did. So the first thing I did thereafter was set about removing the aluminium bezel insert. I put a stealthy all black ceramic bezel insert in there, but it doesn't look good under sunlight. You can still see see a colour discrepancy between the dial and the bezel insert. I tried to return it back to an aluminium insert, but I ended up chipping the hardlex and scratching one of the lugs of the watch quite badly. So I had always had it in mind that I would pick up a 007 at one stage and leave it unmolested, unmodified, just as Seiko intended. But the prices, and that brings me on to my second point about price. The prices on the SKX, I think, are following an identifiable pattern that we saw with the SARB 035 and 033, also by Seiko, also now discontinued, about 12 months prior to the SKX being discontinued. What we saw then was prices initially skyrocketed from around $300 to $350 for a Seiko SARB 033. Prices went nuts. They were $700, $800, $900 immediately after they were discontinued. If you bought one at that price, well, you've got one, but you probably paid a bit too much. Over the following 12 months, I noticed a bit of a gentle deflation of that price bubble. 033s and especially 035s could be picked up again for around about $400 US, even a year after they were discontinued. Now I think we're observing the final death rattle. Not much stock remaining. Prices have spiked once more. They're hard to find on Amazon, but if you have a look on eBay, they're charging ridiculous prices once again, especially for the black dial, maybe up to about $900. So what does that suggest about a possible price curve for the SKX since discontinuation? Well, I think it's following a similar pattern. I think there was a big spike up in values immediately after the SKX was discontinued, and I think we're now seeing a gradual price deflation before an inevitable death rattle again when the stocks get really, really low. So that's why I bought a 007 J1, the Japanese model, at this point in time, and I think I did pretty well in terms of price. I got mine from Creation Watches in Singapore, $414 for the J model. I got a bit of a surprise actually when I unboxed it. I hadn't remembered that I'd ordered the J, but less than $25 between the J and the K. Clearly, at the time of ordering, I thought, well, I may as well, if I'm only going to buy one, it's going to be my last SKX, I'll buy the J model. Now, I bought it on the horrendous rubber straps. Those things are just awful, by the way. I've no idea why anyone would do that to their wrist. I bought it on the horrendous rubber strap because they didn't actually have the 007 on a Jubilee, and I knew that you could get Jubilees reasonably priced on eBay, so I picked one of them up for 70 odd Aussie. That gives me a grand total of about 490 Aussie dollars. That's about 350 USD at the current exchange rate. Clearly that's a bit more than the 250 to 275 US dollars that I would have been paying for one of these had I bought it before it was discontinued, but I think it's a decent price if you do want to pick up an SKX before they all vanished. So that's my message to you today. If you want to buy an SKX, if you for some reason missed out or you just want to add another one, I don't think anybody's going to be speculating on these. I don't think they're going to be trading at a premium in 5 or 10 years time. There are just far too many of them out there on the market for that. But if you want to pick yourself up a box freshie, I reckon now is probably a good time to do it, judging by the prices that are available on eBay. Like I said, floating around that low $300 mark on the rubber and a little bit more on the bracelet. So where does that leave me now then? Well, it leaves me with 3 SKXs. I pretty much have the whole set. I've got my modded 013, which I enjoy and is going nowhere. I've got my brand new 007, which I'm waiting for that Jubilee to arrive, and that's going to stay box fresh and unmolested. I'm going to look after that one. I'm not going to modify it. But it does mean that my slightly disappointing, slightly hacked up 009 can now undergo another set of modifications relatively guilt-free. I'll probably do another NH36 upgrade. I'll swap out the hardlex for some sapphire, and I'll do something with that bezel insert. I haven't quite decided what. I can always swap it back for a Seiko original, slightly cheesy two-tone one, because I do have a couple of those lying around the house, along with a whole bunch of other mod parts for the SKX. The aftermarket for the SKX is just massive, and it still is, thankfully, so I've got no problems finding parts. So there you have it. That is why I bought another Seiko SKX and why I'm making another Seiko SKX based video. When the music stopped, when the Pass the Parcel game ended, I wasn't happy with the SKX I had in hand. I always intended to pick up a 007. I waited for the right time, and I reckon now is the right time in terms of price. Thank you for watching. I will see you in a future video which may or may not be about the Seiko SKX.